It's like Jared. Brett. That's us. We're walking.
Bonjour tout le monde, je suis très heureux d'être ici en compagnie des ministres Anand, Joly et Vandal, du chef-major de la défense Wayne Eyre, Secretary-General Stoltenberg, Jens. What a pleasure to welcome you back to Canada. The last time you were here with me was in 2019, where we visited CFB Petawawa. I'm very pleased to welcome you to Alberta this time. And was really happy to be able to take you yesterday on your first ever visit to the Canadian Arctic. It's a pleasure for me to be back in Cold Lake. I've campaigned through here, but this is my first time visiting the base, so I'm really pleased to be able to thank the members of the Canadian Armed Forces who serve here. It's my first time to the Cold Lake base, but it's not my first time visiting Four Wing. In 1982, I visited with my father Four Wing, which was based in Baden-Schollingen, near Baden-Baden in Germany, and that was one of my first tastes of just how Canada's commitment to NATO is deep and serious and continues today. Another family connection I was moved by, I got to see a plaque commemorating 417 Squadron, which is based here in Cold Lake, but that operated during World War II in North Africa and Sicily. And my grandfather, Jimmy Sinclair, was a flight lieutenant in that squadron and was part of the war effort back then. So there's a lot of family connections, as so many Canadians have to the Canadian Armed Forces and to our history, and it's a reminder how important it is that we continue to support the women and men who serve every day to keep Canada safe. Over the last few days, we've had a chance to talk about the security challenges the world is facing. The Canadian Armed Forces have been able to show us their tremendous expertise. We've discussed the security threats posed by climate change and its unique challenges in the Arctic. Most importantly, we've had a chance to see Canada's strength on the western and northern approaches to NATO. Cette semaine, ça fait 6 mois que Vladimir Poutine a lancé son invasion brutale et injustifiable. Le Canada, avec nos alliés et partenaires, continue de soutenir l'Ukraine. On ne peut pas laisser des régimes autoritaires avoir recours à la violence pour redessiner les frontières des pays souverains. Putin thought he could get away with his unjustifiable war, but he underestimated the Ukrainians and he underestimated the solidarity of our Western democracies. NATO allies are more united than ever, and allied militaries are standing strong in our defense and deterrence postures. As you know, Canada leads the Enhanced Forward Presence Battle Group on NATO's eastern flank in Latvia. Approximately 1,000 brave members of the Canadian Armed Forces are deployed in Europe as part of Operation Reassurance, where they work shoulder to shoulder with soldiers from across allied nations. Canada has also recently announced major investments to modernize our NORAD capabilities, which will contribute to strengthening NATO's northern and western flank. These investments represent the most significant upgrade in Canadian NORAD capabilities in almost 4 decades. We're providing state-of-the-art equipment our armed forces need in order to defend our security and our sovereignty. And we will be developing our northern capabilities in consultation and partnership with the indigenous communities that have called the Arctic home for millennia. To the members of the Canadian Armed Forces I've met this week, and all others just like them, who put their lives on the line every single day, thank you for your service and dedication to Canada and Canadian values. All Canadians are grateful for your bravery and your expertise. Aux membres des Forces armées canadiennes, je veux vous dire merci pour votre service et votre dévouement. Les Canadiens sont tous reconnaissants pour votre courage et votre savoir-faire. And I know from conversations with Jens and other NATO allies, it is always incredibly appreciated when Canadians continue to show up and step up, and in so many cases lead as part of NATO operations, not just in Europe but around the world. Here at Cold Lake, Jens and I will be able to see firsthand the Canadian Armed Forces Combat Ready Forces, the world-class tactical fighter force training, and all the contributions you've provided to NATO missions. This base, 4-Wing, is proudly home to some of Canada's best fighter pilots. It's also a hub for NORAD operations, as well as a launching point for Canada's Arctic and Northern operations. Canada has a unique expertise in Arctic environments. Yesterday, Secretary-General Stoltenberg and I visited Cambridge Bay in Nunavut. We toured a North Warning System site and the Canadian High Arctic Research Station. We spent a lot of time with Inuit community leaders. We heard about the ways global warming is changing the Arctic environment and changing the very terrain on which our Canadian Armed Forces operate. It is clear to researchers, military experts, and both the Secretary-General and I, that climate change is a risk multiplier. Not only are wildfires and floods increasing aid demands on the CAF, but globally, climate change is raising the risk of conflict. We need to take action to address its impacts on national and international security. Au printemps dernier, l'OTAN a accepté l'offre du Canada de mettre sur pied un centre d'excellence pour les changements climatiques et la sécurité ici au Canada. Ce centre va contribuer, entre autres, à orienter la recherche, la formation et l'éducation. Canada has also offered to be the North American home to NATO's new Defense Innovation Accelerator for the North Atlantic. The initiative will make sure that the alliance maintains its technological advantage and keeps us safe from threats in a fast and ever-changing world. We've discussed many things with the Secretary-General this week, but the bottom line is this. Our government will continue to make sure CAF members have what they need to do their jobs and to protect the freedom of Canadians and our allies and partners. Together with our allies, we are more united than ever. Here at 4-Wing Cold Lake, the motto is Auf Wacht, which translates to on watch, a little relic from the time spent in Germany. That's what our detection and deterrence missions with NATO and our steadfast commitment to NORAD are all about. Standing on watch and on guard to protect peace and democracy. Merci tout le monde d'être ici, et merci encore une fois, Jens, d'être ici avec nous. It is always such a pleasure to spend time with you. It is always such a pleasure to work alongside you. It is always so important that we continue to stay united and strong in the face of a changing geopolitical environment, and Canada continues to be there at the heart of NATO. Thank you. Jens.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister Trudeau, my dear friend Justin. It's great to be back in Canada, and thank you for the warm welcome and for your long-standing leadership and strong personal commitment to our alliance. It's always good to meet with you, because then I always meet a strong and steadfast friend of our alliance. It is great to be back in Canada, also because Canada plays a vital role in NATO, where North America and Europe stand together to protect our 1 billion citizens. Many of the pilots and personnel here at Cold Lake have served and will serve in NATO's missions, helping to keep our citizens safe, and we are extremely grateful for their service. This airbase is also a home for your world-class tactical fighter force, playing a key role in NORAD for defense of North America. So Prime Minister, you and I had the opportunity to visit Canada's High North yesterday, together with Minister Jolie, Anand and Vandal, as well as Chief of Defense General Eyre. I also welcome the opportunity to meet with local indigenous community leaders yesterday. That was a great experience for me, my first visit ever to Canadian High North. The High North is strategically important for the Euro-Atlantic security. When Finland and Sweden joins NATO, 7 out of 8 Arctic nations will be NATO members. The shortest path to North America for Russian missiles and bombers would be over the North Pole. This makes NORAD's role vital for North America and therefore also for NATO. As I saw for myself at the North Warning System radar site in Cambridge Bay yesterday. NATO's new strategic concept identifies Russia's capabilities in the High North as a strategic challenge for the whole alliance. Russia has set up a new Arctic command. It has opened hundreds of new and former Soviet-era Arctic military sites, including airfields and deep water ports. Russia is also using the region as a testbed for many of its new novel weapon systems. China is also expanding its reach. It has declared itself a near-Arctic state, plans to build the world's largest icebreaker, and is investing tens of billions of dollars in energy, infrastructure, and research projects in the High North. Beijing and Moscow have also pledged to intensify practical cooperation in the Arctic. This forms part of the deepening strategic partnership that challenge our values and our interests. Our response is a strong and predictable allied presence in the region. We have already established a new NATO command for the Atlantic. Allies, including Canada, are also investing in new capabilities and stepping up their presence in the High North. Allies regularly conduct Arctic exercises, including Canada's Operation Nanook. And we met some of the participants in Nunavut yesterday. Security challenges in the High North are exacerbated by climate change. Climate change will require us to transform fundamentally our approach to security and defense. And Canada has an unrivaled understanding of this. So I welcome yesterday's briefings at the Canadian High Arctic Research Centre, and I thank Canada for planning to host a NATO Centre of Excellence on climate security, sharing expertise and best practices with allies. This, along with NORAD modernization, is one of Canada's strongest contributions to our shared security. You also lead NATO's multinational forces in Latvia, helping to deter any aggression. Your forces contribute to NATO's training mission in Iraq, helping the Iraqis suppress terrorism. Your government plays a leading role in promoting our agenda for women, peace and security, and Canada is a leader and a champion for NATO's continued adaptation and innovation. So I welcome your agreement to host the regional office of NATO's new Defence Innovation Accelerator, Diana. And let me also thank Canada for its strong support to Ukraine, including with military equipment, financial and humanitarian aid, and training for Ukrainian soldiers. And you have supported Ukraine for many years, and that makes a huge difference today. And I also want to commend Canada for being the first to ratify the accession protocols for Finland and Sweden. As NATO continues our adaptation and innovation, I know Canada will continue to be at the forefront. So dear Justin, thank you once again and for being such a warm and generous host for our historic trip today and yesterday. NATO will continue to increase our focus on the High North. We will further strengthen our alliance, and we will continue to protect and defend our nations and our people. And I will look forward to continue to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. We will have 4 questions from reporters. On va avoir 4 questions de journalistes. Please identify your name and outlet. We will start with the Canadian Press.
Hello, Bob Weber, Canadian Press. I have a question and supplementary. I'd like to get responses from both of you, please. Canada has long been reluctant to have NATO involved in the Arctic. I'm wondering why that's changing and what you two both see as NATO's eventual role in the Canadian Arctic.
First of all, understanding that the geopolitical situation has shifted over the past months, which is why understanding that Russia is an increasing concern to all of us makes it timely for us to share with the Secretary-General and with NATO all the things that Canada is doing through NORAD, but also independently to make sure that we're protecting this region that is, as we've said, NATO's northern and western approaches. NORAD and the NORAD modernization we're putting forward consists of the most significant investments in NORAD that Canada's made over the past number of decades to make sure that we continue to lead in protecting our Arctic. NORAD is the one place in the world where countries actually share their territorial defense with another country. Every country in the world protects its own territory and takes that as something that they do on their own. But Canada and the United States do it in an absolutely unique way through a binational command. And we will continue to lead on the defense of North America. But as NATO members, it is of course perfectly germane to invite the Secretary-General and to highlight the work that we're doing as NATO partners in protecting this region. But there is no deep shift in Canadian policy. We are proud members of NATO. We will continue to work with NATO in everything we do and ensure that NORAD is fully equipped to defend North America.
NATO is an Arctic alliance, and of course Canada's presence in the Canadian Arctic is important for the whole alliance. It's important for North America, but it's also important for Europe and all NATO allies. Because this is partly about the vital link through the North Atlantic between Europe and North America, and it's about the fact that the shortest path for Russian missiles, for Russian bombers, is over the North Pole, the Polar Sea. So therefore what happens here matters not only for Canada, it matters for the whole alliance. And therefore we strongly welcome what Canada has done in this part of the alliance for decades with NORAD, with the radar sites, with defense capabilities, including what we see here at the Cold Lake base. But we also realize that the importance of the High North is increasing for NATO and for Canada, because we see a significant Russian military build-up with new bases, new weapon system, and also using the High North as a test bed for their most advanced weapons, including hypersonic missiles. Climate change is making the High North more important because it's the ice is melting, and it becomes more accessible both for economic activity and for military activity. And when Finland and Sweden joins the alliance, 7 out of 8 Arctic nations will be NATO allies. So Canada is an important ally. Canada plays an important role in the High North. The High North is important for NATO, and therefore, of course, this is a visit, which I appreciate very much because it highlights that link between NATO and the important role of Canada in it.
Et permettez-moi d'être très clair. La position du Canada par rapport à l'Arctique n'a pas du tout changé. La défense de l'Arctique au Canada se fait par le biais de NORAD, où on a un positionnement unique où deux pays, le Canada et les États-Unis, assurent ensemble la défense de leur territoire. Mais bien sûr, étant donné l'agression russe en Ukraine et leur positionnement géopolitique, c'est tout à fait pertinent qu'en tant que membre de l'OTAN, on s'assure de coordonner et d'inviter le secrétaire général à voir ce que nous sommes en train de faire pour assurer la défense du Canada, de l'Amérique du Nord et donc des approches ouest et nord vers l'OTAN.
Supplemental, if I may. As the importance of the Arctic grows, I'm wondering if Canada might be looking for something, say, like international recognition of the Northwest Passage as internal waters. Is that part of the discussions that are going on here?
The Northwest Passage is Canadian waters, period.
Not everybody agrees with you, sir.
We have a long-standing disagreement with the United States on that one, but they have understood our position, and our allies, respect Canada's position.
Next question.
Hi, Bill Fortier, CTV National News. First question is for Prime Minister Trudeau. NATO has long pushed for member countries, to spend at a base at least 2% of their GDP on defense. We're not there. Did that come up over the last 2 days, and what promises or assurances were you able to make?
Over the past number of years, Canada has significantly increased its defense investments to ensure both that we are giving the equipment and capabilities needed by members of the Canadian Armed Forces to continue to do their extraordinary jobs, but also so allies can continue to rely on Canada. We have continually stepped up in every NATO mission since its inception. We will continue to deepen and grow our investments, whether it's the significant investments in modernizing our NORAD capabilities, whether it's the defense review ongoing this fall. We will continue to make greater and greater investments. These are things that matter for Canadians and matter for the world, and we certainly recognize that after decades of unprecedented peace, Russia's decision to invade Ukraine is requiring us all to step up even more on defense spending. And that's exactly what we have done over the past 7 years, and I will highlight for those keeping close watch on a partisan basis, the only time recently Canada's defense spending decreased below 1% even was under the previous Conservative government of Stephen Harper.
En français?
Le Canada continue d'investir de façon significative dans nos forces armées, avec les investissements qu'on a projetés au cours des dernières années, mais en plus la modernisation de NORAD et une nouvelle examination de nos plans stratégiques pour cet automne. Nous allons continuer d'investir de plus en plus, reconnaissant qu'on a besoin d'offrir à nos membres des forces armées canadiennes les outils, les ressources nécessaires pour qu'ils puissent faire leur job, mais aussi pour que nos alliés puissent continuer de compter sur le Canada, comme ils l'ont toujours fait, pour être présents dans toutes les différentes missions de l'OTAN et d'avoir un rôle clé dans tout ce que l'OTAN est en train de faire dans un monde de plus en plus inquiétant à bien des niveaux.
A follow-up for Mr. Stoltenberg. You've talked several times today about Russia's military buildup in the north, in the Arctic. You've seen what Canada is doing over the last 2 days. What more specifically would you like to see from Canada in terms of military resources, ships, boots on the ground, aircraft? What more specifically would you like to see Canada do to meet that potential threat?
So Canada is already playing a key role in the high north, and in particular in the Canadian Arctic, and we welcome and appreciate those efforts, and I've seen them myself today and yesterday in Cambridge Bay and here in Cold Lake. Second, there are many areas where actually Canada now is stepping up, which is important for the whole alliance. Modernizing NORAD is of great importance. It's a huge effort. It will cost a lot, but it is really important because it also reflects the new threats with new weapon systems, more advanced weapons on the Russian side. Then we need a more advanced and modernized NORAD, and I welcome the announcement by Canada to invest to modernize NORAD. Second, exercises. That's always important, but it's also a way to bring actually other allies closer together to be able to operate together. And yesterday I was briefed on the different exercises up in the high north, including exercises where other allies participate. This year it was the United States, it was France and Denmark. Previously it has been also countries like Norway and other countries have participated in those exercises. So exercises is also something I welcome, and I know that Canada is stepping up efforts when it comes to exercising both Canadian troops but also together with NATO allies and partners, including, for instance, Sweden, that has been part of these exercises. And thirdly, to understand the Arctic. And the Canadian knowledge of the Arctic is unrivaled. It's unique, and that matters, of course, when it comes to responding to climate change for the civilian sector, but it also matters for military operations presence in the high north to understand the consequences of climate change. And the research station, impressive research which is being conducted there in Cambridge, which we visited yesterday, is another example of how Canada can share with other allies world-class top knowledge about the high north, the Arctic, and the consequences of climate change. So the last thing I would say is that, of course, many of the capabilities, for instance, fifth generation aircraft, which Canada has announced that they will invest in, they can be used many places, but they have unique also capabilities to help us also to be present in the high north with more modern and advanced fighter aircraft, like, for instance, Canada has now decided to invest in.
Thank you. Radio-Canada, prochaine question.
Bonjour, Audrey Neveu de Radio-Canada. Monsieur Trudeau, question en français pour vous, mais si vous pouviez répondre en anglais par la suite, ce serait apprécié. Pouvez-vous nous dire si vous êtes ouvert à davantage de militaires, de navires dans le nord de l'OTAN?
Le nord de l'OTAN, on est 30 pays, 31 pays à l'intérieur de l'OTAN maintenant, qui couvront une grande partie du nord de l'Atlantique et l'Arctique. Et oui, je pense que nous reconnaissons à quel point c'est important d'avoir une présence accrue pour contrer l'agressivité de la Russie et les changements géostratégiques. C'est pour ça que nous sommes en train d'investir dans plus d'effectifs pour nos forces armées, et nous sommes contents que nos alliés à travers le monde sont aussi en train d'investir plus d'effectifs en militaire. Donc à travers le territoire couvert par l'OTAN, c'est intéressant et important d'avoir plus d'effectifs.
Et une autre question, vous avez annoncé des milliards de dollars pour l'amélioration de la défense continentale. Pouvez-vous préciser quand et sur quoi vous allez dépenser ces milliards?
Par exemple, on a été dans le Grand Nord voir les systèmes de radar et de détection de menaces qui viendraient du Nord, qui menacent l'Amérique du Nord. Les investissements qu'on est en train de faire vont amener des capacités accrues pour détecter de nouveaux types de missiles ou de menaces qui pourraient venir. On est aussi en train d'investir dans les capacités technologiques, digitales, numériques. Il y a énormément d'annonces qu'on a à faire et de travail qu'on a à faire pour moderniser le NORAD. Mais le Canada est là pour le faire en partenariat avec les États-Unis et par extension les autres membres de l'OTAN. As I said, it is important that we all recognize the shifting geopolitical realities that the world is now facing, and across the NATO alliance, countries are investing more in ability to secure NATO territory, including across the Arctic. Canada is stepping up and will continue to step up with our defense investments, including in the modernization of NORAD, which will include increases in our abilities to detect and indeed deter threats coming across the pole. There are new technologies at play that we're investing in. These are things that are going to be important as we move forward.
Next question, and this will be the
Daniel Alta, TV2 Norway, to Mr. Stoltenberg. Today, Sweden and Finland and Turkey hold their first meeting after signing the documents to finalize to be NATO members. How will you and NATO work to finalize the members process?
The NATO leaders, also with the support of Prime Minister Trudeau, made an historic decision at the summit in Madrid to invite Finland and Sweden to become members of our alliance. And I convened the Finnish and the Swedish President and Prime Minister, together with President Erdogan, to help facilitate that process and that decision. And they agreed a joint memorandum where they agreed on the way forward to ensure that Finland and Sweden become members of the alliance. One of those elements was to establish a mechanism where Finland and Sweden and Turkey meets to ensure that they work more closely in the fight against terrorism, because we have to recognize the security concerns of all allies and of course also the security concerns of Turkey when it comes to terrorism. So I welcome that the meeting has taken place. I welcome that Finland and Sweden are following up what we agreed in Madrid. And so far the ratification process, the accession process of Finland and Sweden has been the fastest in NATO's modern history. There are not so many months ago since they applied. Then we made the decision in Madrid to invite them. And up to today, 23 out of 30 NATO allies have actually ratified the accession protocol in their parliament. And the first to do so was actually Canada. So this shows that there is a strong support for Finland and Sweden joining. And we will continue to work hard with all allies to ensure that we can finalize the accession process with the final ratification of parliaments as soon as possible.
And the follow-up question?
Yes. Mr. Prime Minister, NATO stepping up in the high north. Why is the security in this region more important than ever, and which role could the Nordic allies play?
I think we understand that a number of factors are going into putting the Arctic in play as a security concern. It has been, to all of our credit, that over the past many decades we have been able to work with partners and adversaries, including Russia, to keep militarization of the Arctic to a minimum. But the context is changing now for two reasons. Obviously, climate change is creating greater accessibility to the Arctic and bringing with it real concerns and challenges around that. But as well, the ill-fated, unjustifiable decision of Russia to upend nearly 70 years of peace and stability of a rules-based order by invading a peaceful neighbor has changed the way we need to look at the Arctic. As Jens and many others have pointed out, 7 of the 8 Arctic nations, with the accession of Sweden and Finland to NATO, are or will be NATO members. And I think it's extremely important that we continue to step up. As far as the Canadian Arctic is concerned, we have established long-standing abilities through NORAD, Canada and the United States together, to protect these approaches to our continent and by extension to NATO. We will continue to step up, including with the modernization that we've recently announced. But for many years now, we've also been ensuring that our NATO allies and partners, from France to Denmark to Germany to the UK and others, are present for training operations and interoperability exercises in Canadians Arctic, and that, of course, will continue. we all have a role in making sure that the world is safe and peaceful, and NATO, as a defensive alliance, will ensure that we always have the ability and the capacities to defend our alliance and the values that underpin it.
Merci. Ceci met fin à la conférence de presse. Thank you, everyone. That concludes the press conference.
Merci tout le monde.